rain was relentless. Heavy sheets pouring from a bruised sky, hammering leaves, drowning every sound beneath its weight. Thunder cracked above the jungle canopy, rolling like distant artillery. The air was thick, alive, almost breathing. August 1942, Guadalcanal, Solomon Islands. Somewhere near Mount Austin, a Japanese patrol from the 2nd Infantry Division was on the move, 12 men led by Sergeant Hiroshi Tanaka. Their orders were simple on paper. Move inland, locate the American supply route, and cut it off. But nothing about Guadalcanal was simple. The men trudged through knee-deep mud, rifles slung across their backs, rain dripping from steel helmets. Their uniforms clung to their skin, soaked and heavy. Leeches crawled up their legs, biting into flesh already swollen from days in the field. Jungle rot had set in. The smell of sweat, mold, and gun oil mixed with the earthy rot of the forest floor. "Sergeant," one of the soldiers, Corporal Ishikawa, whispered, voice almost lost in the rain. "The forest, it's breathing." Tanaka didn't reply. He had heard enough strange talk since arriving on this cursed island. Men swore they saw shapes in the trees at night, eyes watching from the shadow. He told them all the same thing. Fear makes fools of soldiers. Still, something about tonight felt wrong. The patrol moved in single file, weaving between twisted trees and towering ferns. The jungle seemed to close around them, walls of green swallowing their formation. Even the sound of their boots sloshing in mud felt muffled, as if the forest itself was listening. Then, a flash of lightning. For an instant, the jungle lit up in blinding white. Shadows stretched like claws across the foliage. When the light faded, the world went silent. No rain, no frogs, no insects, nothing. It was the kind of silence that screams. Tanaka raised a clenched fist. The patrol stopped. He looked around. The rain was still falling, but it made no sound. Not on the leaves, not on their helmets. The men exchanged nervous glances. One of them adjusted his flashlight, and it flickered. Then another went dim, then another. Within seconds, all beams had faded to a sickly glow, like dying fireflies in a jar. "Batteries," Tanaka muttered. "Change them now." But no one moved. They were staring, listening. From somewhere ahead came a sound, a deep, wet thud, then another. Slow, heavy, deliberate. Footsteps, not the light step of a man, not even the plod of a bear. Each impact sank deep into the mud, heavy enough to shake water off nearby branches. Tanaka whispered, "Positions!" The soldiers raised their rifles, eyes darting between trees. The rain began to taper, turning into a soft drizzle. Steam rose from the jungle floor. Then, through the fog, the beam of Ishikawa's failing flashlight caught something. Movement. A shadow. Enormous. The size of a tree trunk. Tanaka's breath caught in his throat. The shadow moved again. Slow, deliberate, like a creature that didn't care if it was seen. And then, the scream. High, human, terrified, the patrol turned. Private Nakamura was gone. His rifle lay in the mud. The beam of a flickering light swept upward. And that's when they saw it. A flash of lightning split the sky. For that single heartbeat of light, they saw the thing holding Nakamura aloft. A giant. Easily 3 meters tall, muscular, covered in matted dark hair. Its skin looked slick in the rain. Its eyes burned red, reflecting the lightning like coals. And in its massive hand, Nakamura kicked and screamed, his legs flailing helplessly. Tanaka's voice broke the paralysis. "Fire!" The jungle exploded in muzzle flashes. Gunfire tore through the rain, the air filled with the crack of rifles and the hiss of steam as hot barrels met cold water. The creature staggered, or maybe it didn't. The men couldn't tell. They fired until clips ran dry. Then silence again. Tanaka reloaded, breath shaking. "Check the perimeter." Ishikawa swept his beam toward where the giant had been. Nothing. No body. No blood. Only mud churned with massive footprints, each the length of a man's torso. "Impossible," one soldier whispered. Tanaka didn't respond. He was staring at the trees, at the shadow moving between them. Slow. Watching. Another flash of lightning lit up the ridge, and for a moment, they saw several more figures. Huge, motionless, eyes glinting red in the storm. Then the thunder rolled, and they were gone. Tanaka swallowed hard. "Form up," he said. "We're pulling back." No one argued. As they retreated through the downpour, Ishikawa whispered under his breath, "Sergeant." It wasn't just one. Tanaka didn't answer. He didn't have to. Because deep in that jungle, with every step they took, the ground trembled like something massive was following just beyond the rain. And what they would see next was beyond anything they were prepared for. Before we go any further, most of you watching right now still haven't subscribed. Our next target is 5,000 subscribers, and your support keeps stories like this alive. So hit subscribe, stay till the end, and share your thoughts in the comments once you've heard the full story. Now, let's go back to where it all began.
What the hell was that? It took him. It just tore him out of the line.
I saw it. It wasn't human, Sergeant.
Don't move. Keep formation. Whatever that was, hasn't gone far.
To understand what these soldiers faced, you have to know where they were. The Solomon Islands, a scattered chain of jungle-covered islands in the South Pacific. 6 major ones, and nearly 1,000 smaller. To most of the world, they were just dots on a map. But in 1942, they became the center of one of the bloodiest campaigns of the Pacific War. Japan had seized the islands early that year, turning them into a defensive wall to block the Allies from reaching Australia. On Guadalcanal, they built an airfield, a critical launch point for supply convoys and bomber routes. The Americans couldn't allow that. So in August 1942, U.S. Marines landed on the beaches under pouring rain, and hell followed. For months, the jungle swallowed men alive. Heat, insects, malaria, hunger. The Japanese fought fiercely, refusing to surrender. The Americans bombarded the island from sea and sky, yet every inch of ground was taken at a cost. But the deeper both armies pushed inland, the stranger things became. Patrols vanished. Tracks ended in the middle of nowhere. And even the locals warned, don't go into the mountains. The interior was different. Thick forests where sunlight barely touched the ground, and valleys where no radio signal could reach. The soldiers called those places the dark zones. Locals had another word, forbidden. Because in those untouched jungles, far beyond the artillery and the coastlines, lay something older than war, something that didn't want to be found. When the firing stopped, the jungle swallowed the sound again. No echoes, no voices, just rain falling in sheets and the hiss of steam rising off hot rifle barrels. The giant had vanished. One soldier, gone. Another, Private Yamati, was on the ground, clutching his shoulder, bleeding heavily. 4 deep slashes, not like knife wounds, like claws. Sergeant Tanaka gave the order to fall back. No one argued. They stumbled through the flooded forest, rifles half raised, boots sinking in the mud with every step. Every man could feel it, the jungle watching them. By the time they reached camp, the rain had slowed to a steady drizzle. No one spoke. At dawn, they went back. They had to recover their missing comrade, Private Kenta. They found him, or what was left of him. His torso ripped open, one arm missing, flesh torn clean off the ribs. There were bite marks, enormous, round, and deep, the kind no known animal could make. Even the biggest crocodile couldn't leave marks like that. Whatever killed him wasn't human, and it had eaten him. Tanaka filed his report that morning, but when his commanding officer read it, he tore the page out and burned it. He told Tanaka to keep quiet. An American ambush, he said, nothing more. But Tanaka's men knew the truth. They'd seen its eyes, they'd heard its breathing, and they could still smell the stench of rot hanging in the mist. That night, nobody slept. Every rustle, every drip of water sounded like footsteps in the dark. Even the crickets had gone silent. 2 nights later, headquarters sent out another patrol, 15 men, to scout the Matanikau River Valley. Experienced troops, well armed. They radioed in at 1800 hours, and then nothing. By morning, the line was dead. Tanaka's squad was sent to find them. The jungle was thicker there, heavy vines hanging like ropes, mud up to their knees. They followed the patrol's route for nearly a mile before they saw the first helmet. Then another, then a rifle, snapped clean in half. No bodies, no drag marks, no blood. Just footprints, huge ones. 3-toed impressions, each print nearly 2 feet long, pressed deep into the wet ground. One set, then another, then another. More than a dozen of them, crossing and overlapping, leading back into the interior. Tanaka crouched, staring at the marks, his breath fogging in the humid air. It wasn't one creature. It wasn't even 2. Whatever they were dealing with, there were many. He looked back at his men, pale, trembling, exhausted. None of them said a word, but they all understood. This wasn't a battlefield anymore. It was a hunting ground, and they weren't the hunters. Long before Japan or America ever came here, the islanders already had a name for these beings. They called them the Guadalcanal Giants, ancient forest people, taller than trees, said to live in caves and hunt beneath the moonlight. For generations, the tribes told the same warnings. Never go inland after dark, never follow the drumming, never answer the voices from the valley. These weren't bedtime stories. They were memories, passed down like survival codes. The islanders came from fierce bloodlines. Warriors, headhunters, and yes, cannibals. Their ancestors fought wars against the giants. Wars no one won. Some legends say entire villages were taken, men devoured, women stolen, children raised in the caves, until they became something else. Hybrids of man and monster. When the Christian missionaries arrived in the 1800s, they told the tribes to leave their mountain fortresses and move to the coasts, away from blood and superstition. The people obeyed. But the jungles they left behind stayed untouched, and whatever lived there remained undisturbed. By 1942, when the Japanese Imperial Army moved inland to build their defenses, they were walking straight into the island's forbidden heart. The same valleys, the same ridges where no Solomon Islander dared to go. Some locals tried to warn them. They spoke of red eyes in the fog, of roars that shook the cliffs, But no one listens to old stories in the middle of a war. To the soldiers, the danger was the enemy with guns. They didn't realize. They had trespassed into something far older. Something that remembered the taste of blood. And for the first time in centuries, it was awake again. At dawn, the rain had stopped, but the jungle still steamed like a furnace. Tanaka's platoon moved in a staggered line, rifles raised, eyes scanning the mud. Then they saw them again. The tracks. Not one, not two, at least 15. Huge, deep impressions, each nearly 3 feet long, pressed into the soaked ground. You could see the toes, the heel, the sheer weight of whatever made them. And all heading uphill, toward the mountains that cut through central Guadalcanal. The men followed the trail in silence, boots sinking into the muck. Every few yards, Tanaka stopped and knelt, checking distance, stride, direction. They weren't random. These things were moving in formation, like hunters. Half a mile later, Ishikawa called out softly. There were more prints, smaller, human, barefoot. At first they thought maybe islanders, but the spacing was wrong. The stride was longer, and some prints overlapped the giant's tracks, almost walking with them. Captives, maybe, or something worse. They kept climbing until the canopy broke open and the fog rolled in. The ridge overlooked a ravine, thick vines, broken trees, and smoke like mist rising from below. Then came the smell. Rot, sweet and heavy, the kind that sticks to your throat. Tanaka waved his hand forward. The men crept closer and saw them. Bones. Dozens scattered across the slope. Some small, others clearly human. Skulls cracked open, ribs chewed clean. Private Mori gagged. Ishikawa covered his mouth, whispering a prayer. Tanaka didn't say a word. He just gave the order. Burn it. They doused the brush with fuel and lit it up. The wet leaves hissed. Smoke rose, thick and dark. But as the fire spread, the jungle trembled. A roar thundered from the ravine. Low, deep, inhuman. It rattled the air, shaking leaves loose from the trees. Then movement, fast. Shadows cutting through the fog. One, then another, then 10. Figures, massive, hunched, covered in matted hair, eyes burning red even in daylight. The sound of trees breaking as they moved. Contact! Front! Tanaka shouted. The jungle exploded in gunfire. Rifles cracked, grenades burst. The smell of cordite mixed with the stink of death. The giants didn't stop. One tore through a tree and kept running. Another took a direct hit, a grenade, and vanished into the smoke, still roaring. Tanaka emptied his Arisaka rifle, reloaded, fired again. It was like shooting at ghosts. The radio man was the first to go. Something hit him from the side, a blur, and he was gone, dragged screaming into the fog. Then Private Mori. A scream, a crunch, silence. Retreat, Tanaka shouted. They fell back through the jungle, stumbling over roots, firing behind them. Branches snapped overhead. The ground shook under heavy footsteps. No one looked back. By the time they reached the lower ridge, half the platoon was missing. The rest kept running. Through knee-deep mud, across streams, through thorn vines that tore their uniforms. The rain returned, washing blood off their faces. When they finally stumbled into the forward base that night, there were 6 left, exhausted, mud-caked, eyes empty. The commanding officer demanded a report. Tanaka didn't answer. He just stared into the jungle. He could still hear it, that roar echoing in the valley, fading with the rain. whatever was out there, it wasn't finished, and it wasn't alone. The next night, Tanaka's survivors dug in. They were done running. They built a perimeter around the camp, tripped flares, light machine guns, and the last of their claymores wired along the southern line. Ammo was checked twice. Grenades within reach. No one spoke much. They all knew something was coming. The jungle was calm that evening. Too calm. Not even the cicadas called. The air hung heavy, thick with smoke, sweat, and fear. By 2300 hours, the moon slipped behind the clouds and the camp was swallowed by darkness. Then the ground began to move. At first, it was faint. A slow tremor, like distant thunder, then stronger. The sound rolled through the soil, a deep, rhythmic pounding. Not random, not natural. It was footsteps, many of them. Private Ishikawa whispered, "They're back." But Tanaka already knew. He raised his hand. Hold, hold. The first trip flare burst to life, red light cutting through the mist. And that's when they saw them. Shapes, dozens, maybe more, circling the camp from every direction. Eyes glowed in the flare's light, burning orange, reflecting off wet skin and tangled hair. Some stood still. Others swayed, shoulders heaving like they were waiting. Then one stepped forward, larger than the rest, nearly 4 meters tall. Its skin was dark, matted with mud and blood, muscles rippling beneath the hair. It gripped a broken tree trunk like a spear. For a moment, no one moved. Then the creature tilted its head back and screamed. It wasn't an animal sound. It wasn't human either. It was both a roar and a shriek mixed together, echoing through the canopy. Tanaka shouted, "Open fire!" The night exploded. Rifles roared. Machine guns hammered. Flares shot into the sky, painting the jungle red. Giants charged through the perimeter, ripping through barbed wire like grass. Grenades burst, tearing holes in the fog, but still they came. One went down, maybe. Or maybe it just stumbled. Another grabbed Private Mori straight out of the trench and hurled him into the trees. The sound of his body hitting the branches made everyone freeze for half a second. Then another scream, closer this time. Tanaka fired until his rifle clicked empty, then switched to the sidearm. Shell casings bounced off the mud. Smoke thickened until they could barely see. The jungle itself seemed alive. Shaking, breaking, closing in. He gave the only order left. Retreat! Fall back to the river! The men broke contact, stumbling through the dark. Flares burned out behind them. The giants didn't chase, not yet. Maybe they didn't have to. By dawn, only 4 reached the riverbank. They crossed on a half-collapsed log bridge, covered in mud and blood, not daring to look back. When they reached the forward base, no one believed their story. The command filed the report under malaria and terrain losses. 36 men had gone into that jungle. 4 came back, and none of them ever spoke of it again. Years passed. The war ended, but the stories from Guadalcanal didn't die with it. They only changed hands. When the U.S. Marines took over the island after the Japanese withdrawal, they began hearing the same whispers the locals had told their enemies months earlier. Tales of the forest people, of giant shadows that moved across the mountains when the mist was thick and the moon was gone. Some Marines laughed it off, just native superstition. But others didn't. A few patrols in late 1943 reported seeing enormous silhouettes moving along distant ridgelines. Too tall to be men, too slow to be smoke. One corporal described it later as like a tree walking against the sky. At night, airmen stationed near Henderson Field claimed they heard strange cries echoing through the valleys. Not animal, not mechanical, just deep, guttural howls that faded whenever flares went up. Then, in the 1960s, a U.S. helicopter pilot flying a reconnaissance mission over Guadalcanal reported seeing something impossible. A massive human-like figure standing alone on a remote mountainside. He circled back for a closer look. By the time he turned, it was gone. Vanished into the tree line. He told the story years later, saying, "Whatever it was, it didn't move like a man." Decades after the war, the jungle still held its secrets. At the Gold Ridge mine on Guadalcanal, local workers were clearing ground for excavation when a bulldozer blade, weighing several tons, got stuck in the mud. They detached it and left it overnight, planning to retrieve it the next morning. But when they returned, it was gone. The massive steel blade had been moved nearly 100 meters uphill, resting against a slope. Around it were enormous footprints, 3 to 4 feet long, pressed deep into the soil, human-shaped, but far too big. No machinery, no vehicles, no tracks, just those prints. The crew refused to stay after sunset from that day forward. They said the mountain wasn't empty, and the mine was soon shut down for safety concerns. Ask anyone from the villages on Guadalcanal's northeast coast about Mango, and they'll tell you she was real. She disappeared in 1950. 25 years later, she was found, filthy, thin, and wild-eyed. Her mind was broken. She spoke of living deep in the mountains, taken by a giant husband. The villagers thought she was mad until they saw she was pregnant. She gave birth to a boy, half her size at birth, but growing unnaturally fast. His arms, his jawline, not quite human. He lived for 5 years before one of Mango's brothers killed him out of fear. They buried the body near the village. Even now, locals point to that patch of ground and call it the grave of the half-giant. In the 1990s, an Australian helicopter engineer and pilot, Marius Boy-Rayon, moved to the Solomon Islands. He'd heard rumors about giants and strange lights, and what started as curiosity became a lifetime obsession. Boy-Rayon spent years interviewing tribal elders, men and women who swore the Japanese fought red-eyed cannibal giants during the war. He collected stories of soldiers disappearing, of entire patrols wiped out, of footprints too large to fake. His book, Solomon Island Mysteries, combined folklore with eyewitness testimony, describing the giants not as myths, but as a hidden race that had lived on the islands long before humans arrived. Skeptics dismissed it all, saying there's no bone, no photograph, no proof. But for the islanders, no proof is needed. They've seen enough. And to this day, if you ask the people of Guadalcanal whether the giants are real, they'll tell you softly, don't go inland after dark. Maybe these weren't monsters at all, but something older. Something that had been here long before us. Before Japan, before America, before any war ever reached these shores. Perhaps they were the last survivors of a forgotten species, pushed deeper and deeper into the jungles as humans claimed the coasts, a people defending what little land they had left. When the Japanese soldiers marched inland in 1942, they didn't just invade an island. They crossed into someone else's territory. And maybe that's what awakened the giants. Every war leaves scars. but not all of them are human. Sometimes the earth itself remembers. The caves, the mountains, the forests, places where light never reaches. Places that still belong to something ancient. To the people of the Solomon Islands, the giants aren't myths. They're not legends told to frighten children. They're neighbors, unseen, territorial, and waiting. The locals say they don't hunt for sport, only when disturbed. And every now and then, someone disappears in those same mountains, and the old warnings echo again. Whether they were spirits, beasts, or something in between, the soldiers of Guadalcanal faced more than just an enemy army. They stepped into a land where the ancient still walks, and where man is not the apex predator. Maybe that's why the jungle stays so quiet at night. Maybe that's why the rain never stops. Because some places on this earth were never meant for men. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with others who love mysterious wartime encounters. Tell me in the comments, do you think the Solomon Island Giants were real? Or just legends born from fear and war? Your thoughts might inspire our next story. This is Wartime Phantoms. Over and out.